Eastern Christianity. So we're not just talking, say, about Greek Orthodox Christianity. We're talking about everything from Russia to Egypt, and from Italy to the Balkans to Greece, all across Turkey. The entire suite of Eastern Christianity. That's what we're talking about. Serbian, Russian, Coptic, anything you... What began to strike us is that when you look at, say, what the images they use for the 12 great feasts, if you're looking at an iconostasis up here and you have the 12 feasts across here, or if you see a life of Jesus scenes, you're looking at them and, yeah, you recognize them, pretty much all of them except one. The crucifixion looks pretty much like we would do it. Small, minor differences, of course, of artistry. But if you see somebody with wings talking to a woman, okay, that looks like the Annunciation. Two women embracing one another looks like the Visitation. A woman having given birth, and all right, it might be different that the child's been bathed. But we recognize them all until we come to the resurrection. And in case we don't know what it is, it says, He Anastasis, on top of it. The resurrection. So I will keep using that word, especially when I'm talking about the Eastern tradition. I will call it the Anastasis. That's not to be fancy, but just so you know I'm talking about the East. The basic difference is this, and it took a while to sink in. In the West, Jesus comes out of the tomb, magnificent, a little bit like an athlete coming out of the gym. I spend over an hour in the gym every day, and I recognize the acrid smell of narcissistic testosterone. But my point is not the beauty of Jesus coming out almost nude, but alone. The soldiers may be cowering at the feet, but Jesus is always coming out alone. I quote it as the individual resurrection. It's all about Jesus. And of course, any Jew would have said, rightly in the first century, but he's not the first Jew who died on a Roman cross. And he's not the last. So what's all the fuss about? Okay, if he's the Son of God and God takes good care of Jesus, isn't that kind of like nepotism? Or filialism? What about all the others?
Yeah.
What about all those who died for justice or from injustice before Jesus? If it's all about Jesus, then it's not about the justice of God. Any Jewish theologian would have said, don't tell me about the justice of God if it's all about Jesus. So, when you look at the Eastern tradition, Jesus is never ever coming out alone. The only time you'll find that in the Eastern tradition is when it has been infected by the West. And I mean it. I call it the communal resurrection. There's a crowd coming out with Jesus. And if you wanted to put it in a verbal question, you'd say, when Paul talks about the first fruits of those who have slept, perfect tense in Greek, or the same in Matthew. Who are the ones who have slept? Who are coming out with Jesus? Now, if you want to play a game with yourself, it's a bit early in the morning for games. Imagine that you were told 6 people of the crowd who come out with Jesus, 6 people are identified. Imagine which 6 we might have come up with. And then imagine how wrong we'd be. When I'm showing you the video, think of it as a meditation. I want you to let these images penetrate your imagination. Not your imagination, our imagination. I have one of them above my desk at home just to trying to imagine what these people are imagining. Because it's very easy, for example, when you're in the Western tradition to get into debate, you know all about it if you've been through seminary and survived it, about an empty tomb, the empty tomb. And it's easy to debate an empty tomb. What about thousands? Did nobody notice? Could these people possibly be thinking literally? You can do it with an empty tomb, one. You can't do it with thousands. And the extraordinary thing is that the 6 that are specified the first two, and I mean chronologically, and always the first two, are Adam and Eve. Huh? And God is holding the hand of Adam. Excuse me, Jesus is holding the hand of Adam. I would never have chosen Adam and Eve. I thought they were the problem. So, when I'm showing you things to watch for, Jesus is very often carrying a cross, not a great big wooden cross, but a symbolic cross, but the cross is there. Watch for that. Watch for the emphasis on the wounds. Watch for the fact that there'll be locks and bolts and bars scattered all over the place. You're imagining Hades as the great big prison house of the dead. It's blissfully mythological. And Jesus goes down there, it's like the A-Team, and he bursts open the doors, and poor old Hades, not Satan, not the devil, but Hades, who's simply the doorkeeper, who's trying to keep the door shut, and he gets slapped. And Jesus kind of walks right over him. Watch for Hades. He'll be shown as an old man because he's been at it for a long time. Don't think the devil. Think of death incarnate, if you will. There's a flash going through my mind. Beginning of May of this year, Sarah and I were in the Greek part of Cyprus, still on the hunt of the Anastasis. And we had a driver, and after a while she began to notice that we were always focusing in these, we were in the Troodos Mountains, and we were watching these 12th, 13th, 14th century churches, small little village churches. We call them chapels. She noticed we were always paying attention to this one Anastasis, and she said, you know, I don't go to church regularly, but on Easter Sunday, myself, and she was British, my mom, always go to our local church in Patras. And she said, the weirdest thing is this. They have this ceremony at the beginning where the priest comes and tries to push open the door, and they have an old man, and I don't know why it's an old man, but it's on the inside, he's always pushing, and it seems awful to make an old man do that. I've never heard of it before, but obviously they're enacting Christ and Hades. Hades is an old man. Wow. So, watch for this. Anything else? I'm going to show you the stages of the development of this image as well, across about 500 years. From about 700, when we have the first ones, to about 1200. By that I mean, after that the stages are set. There's no new. It's not that they don't go on. The first stage is this. I'll code them by a single word. Approaching. Jesus is shown approaching either to left or right of the viewer, reaching down, usually to catch Adam. Eve is standing right next to Adam in the first one. The second one is leaving. Jesus has Adam by the hand and Eve, and he's taking off. He may be looking back, he may be looking forward. He's leaving. He's taking it with him. He's always holding on to Adam. The third stage is, and this is part of the iconoclastic controversy, we say, you know, should Jesus be holding people's hands? Jesus is simply standing there showing his wounds. He's not touching anyone. Everyone's there, but he's not touching anyone. I call that showing. So we have approaching, leaving, showing, and then I call it facing. Jesus will be leaving, but he's looking at you. He's not looking forward, he's not looking back, he's walking this way or the other way, and he's looking out at you. And the final one, which is my favorite, of course, is what I call an equal opportunity yanker. He's got Adam by one hand, Eve by the other, and he's taking them both out of the tomb simultaneously. Watch for that, and as you're watching it, let it change your imagination. This, I think, is something we have profoundly lost, and finally it dismays me when I see the influence of the West slowly moving into the East. We noticed in the Cypriot churches, we began to see, sometimes you'd see the image of the Eastern Anastasis and the Western side by side, and then in some churches there was only the Western one. And we went and checked our history and found out that the Venetians controlled Cyprus during the 16th century, and churches built in the 16th century use the Western vision. But it's still there, it's still in the Eastern tradition. So when Doug is ready, we're going to hit the lights. This is going to take about 13 or 14 minutes. But let the images fill your mind. When you're ready, Doug, go ahead.
Mm-hmm.